Woody it is. I'll take Woody.
You always do. God damn it. We were so close. Welcome, nerds, to episode 146 of the Nerds You're Looking For podcast, a weekly nerd culture podcast. Discusses the culture through various segments. My name, of course, is Patrick Kuhn, alongside my co-host, as always, that Tyler Hunt. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty well. I'm exhausted, but how are you?
I'm tired as well. I had to work this morning, but it should be a pretty fun night. I mean, we're recording this, which of course I look forward to every week. And it's been a couple of months, but I finally have another stand-up show. I've been crazy busy lately, and that was just kind of the thing that fell by the wayside, unfortunately. So I do have a show tonight. Really looking forward to it. So it should be a pretty fun night.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. My wife and I might go. I don't know. Probably not, but but we might. I've never been to the bar.
Oh, yeah?
You're doing it at. It seems like a hipster bar. I don't know that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like your scene.
It's probably more my scene than you would imagine, but I don't fit the hipster build, so
yeah.
I wouldn't be embraced by the community there, and I don't know.
They do have, I can't remember what game it is. They have it built like it's an arcade game, but it's actually just, I think it's just like I want to say it's Deadly Alliance. It's a Mortal Kombat game. Okay. And I played it the last time I was there, and that's pretty much it. I've done one show there previously, and it was actually a really fun night. Unfortunately, I gave myself laryngitis because of it, because I remember it was right after I was getting off being sick, and then we had recorded a podcast very similar to the situation that we're in now, except for me not being sick today. We had just recorded a podcast, and then I went and did that show.
Yeah.
And then the next couple of days, I literally could not talk at all, because I had given myself laryngitis because I was not quite over whatever it is that I had. So hopefully that doesn't repeat itself.
Yeah, for sure. So I spent my week this week in Cleveland.
Awesome. That sounds like a step up from Dayton, though.
So it was really actually the Akron area, and I did like the area, but the company I work for was nice enough to fly me, so I didn't have to make the 8-hour drive. But
that drive sucks, by the way.
Well, here's the thing. So yesterday there was some rain, and apparently whenever it fucking sprinkles outside, every plane on the planet is delayed.
Yes.
So it took me 11 hours to get home yesterday whenever I could have made an 8-hour drive. So I was pretty pissed. I haven't flown a lot in my life, so it was my first experience with delayed flights, but I was supposed to fly from Cleveland to Detroit to Evansville, and I had a 35-minute layover in Detroit. So It was like I was gonna have to book it, and my flight to Detroit got delayed by 15 minutes, but that was too much. So they put me on a flight to Atlanta. So I fly down to Atlanta and have like a 2-hour layover, which was you and I were talking, like a 2-hour layover is perfect because you can eat and then get on the plane and get home. But then that got delayed like 2 hours. So I'm fucking around in Atlanta's airport by myself for hours. It was a bitch of a day, man, and I am still exhausted from it. I should have just fucking drove.
Yeah, the only time I've flown a lot, the only time they've ever lost my luggage, and I say that in quotes because they didn't really lose it, is when I was actually at the Detroit airport, because I had one of those situations where my layover wasn't that long, and I was flying from Vegas, and those always get delayed because I think it was around Thanksgiving or Christmas, which is a terrible time to fly because most of the cities that you're going to fly to are snowed. And so it's really tough. As tough as it apparently is to fly in the rain, it's even worse in the snow. So those flights get delayed all the time, and it's kind of a clusterfuck. And so my flight coming to Vegas got delayed, and so I was supposed to hop onto this flight. It got delayed, and so my layover in Detroit was like 10 minutes. It was ridiculous. Wow. And so I had to like sprint across the airport, and I almost like hyperventilated, and I made it before my bags made it there. Like my bags missed the flight, and so they had to be on the next flight to Evansville. It was a cluster. Like it was awful.
I thought for sure they were going to lose my bags yesterday because I only had a carry-on,
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I got put on the Atlanta flight at the last minute, and they're like, sorry, no more room. We have to check your bag.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
Just my day is going to be more perfect, and they're going to lose my fucking bag. There's no way. But by some act of God, it made it to Evansville. So at least I had all my stuff, which had my car keys in it. So I would have been fucked that way too. And when I called my wife to come pick me up at midnight, but it was exhausting. And I have to fly there again this week, and I'm hoping that I don't run into any similar issues, because at this point it's taken me just as long, and I could have just drove.
Yeah, it always seems silly because you get home finally after a long day of traveling. It's like you haven't really actually done anything, but you're just like exhausted. I don't know what it is about it. It just, I mean, obviously jet lag, but it's more than that. It's just like you're mentally and physically exhausted through the whole process. But all you really did was sit on your ass all day.
No, I mean, I did pace the airport, like, just because I couldn't sit still because I was so nervous. My boarding pass didn't have a seat on it, and I flew Delta. And so I'm like, I'm not getting on this fucking plane to Evansville because I don't have a seat. And it was a situation where they assign your seats once they open the check-in process. And I ended up, luckily, again, of course I'm here, I got a seat, but I spent like basically 3 hours stressing they weren't going to have room for me on this plane.
The flights to Evansville usually have like 5 or 10 people on it though. Like, I mean, there's never any trouble.
No, I mean, nobody wants to come here unless you unfortunately live here. So that's pretty much the gist of it.
All right, so we normally start each episode by kind of just checking in with each other. Now that Tyler and I have our big boy jobs, we don't get to have the nerdy conversations we used to have as frequently as we used to have them. And so we kind of like to start off this first segment by just kind of checking in with each other. We call it What We're Into. So what are you into this week?
So you would think sitting on my ass by myself in a hotel room every night, I'd just be consuming a ton of entertainment. And
I would assume that you were just masturbating the whole time.
I mean, I was making the art films that we talked about last week of me jerking off, but no, I actually just haven't been watching a whole lot. So there was one thing that I attempted to watch that I would like to talk about, and it's TJ Miller's new comedy special on HBO. Okay. It's called TJ Miller Meticulously Ridiculous. And I am not going to sugarcoat it. I hated this comedy special so much. And I put comedy in quotes there because I am not sure I ever cracked a smile watching it.
Okay.
So I'm completely baffled how he got laughs in this special from the audience. And I think that it's because it took place in Denver, which is his hometown. And he referenced Denver like 20 times in the first 5 minutes. And every time he got applause, and the crowd loved him because he was like the hometown hero. So I'm guessing that's why he was so over with the crowd, but I just don't honestly get his style of comedy. If you've seen the previews for this special, I know that HBO was advertising it quite a bit. You see that he's wet.
Yes.
Throughout it. And in that regard, as like that aspect of this special, he's almost like a hack prop comic. He comes out for the start of the special and he's already wet. So there's no explanation. He just comes out and he's wet. And then he has water bottles that he basically uses as a weird ploy for laughs. Like he'll shake them around and he gets the audience wet and he splashes himself with the water. And it made me cringe. It didn't work for me, and the crowd liked it, but I just thought that it was really cheap. And in my opinion, he's a really great comedic actor. Like I've talked about Silicon Valley, how much I love that. I honestly loved him from the first time I saw him, and that sounds more romantic than it needed to, but She's Out of My League. So that movie's not great, but I thought that he was pretty funny in it. And of course, he's in Deadpool. He's going to have a big part in Ready Player One. So he's a very talented actor, and he's getting work that he deserves. So I was really shocked at how bad this was. He seemed like I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I do comedy. I know that you do, and you're pretty well versed in a lot of it. But it seemed like the jokes he was doing were more experimental than planned out. And I'm curious how much he worked the material out before filming the special. I'm not 100% sure on that, obviously, but I doubt he did much practice with it. At one point, he does like a wordplay joke, and it doesn't work out. The crowd doesn't laugh at it, and he basically says, "Oh, I wish I hadn't done that one." And maybe it did do great with other audiences, but I get the feeling, just as the whole comedy special being there, it felt like he didn't test it out that much because he was all over the place. He definitely has a weird sense of humor as well, and maybe that's why it doesn't click for me, because I'm a bigger fan of storytelling within stand-up comedy, and that's not really his thing. But I'm not going to lie, I did have to turn it off. I didn't even finish this special, and I hate saying that and talking about this on the podcast as it being something that I didn't even finish, but it was really tough to watch, and I just couldn't do this one. So I was really disappointed, because I would consider myself a TJ Miller fan, at least his filmography, but this was pretty rough to watch.
Yeah, he's definitely an acquired taste. It's not necessarily... It's weird, because I consider myself a fan as well, and I'm not a huge fan of his stand-up. So I think we're in the similar boat there. I will say that, and I hope this doesn't come off as like sour grapes, because I kind of dabble in stand-up, but it seems like when you get to a certain point in your career as a stand-up, it seems like it might get a little bit easier, because people know who you are, and they're coming to see you, so you don't necessarily always have to do the work per se, because they're already there. Like, they're already there to see you. You've already kind of done some of the work already, like starting out, getting your name out there and getting to that point in your career. The audience is willing to go with you to certain places, so you're able to try some certain things, and you might get laughs that you wouldn't have gotten if you're just doing an open mic or if you're just starting out. So it seems like it would get a little bit easier. Now, of course, there's other things that are hard about it. Don't get me wrong, but it seems like once you kind of get the audience and you get a fan base, you kind of get away with some other things that you wouldn't get away. I mean, I constantly watch specials that I'm just like, if I did that joke, there's no fucking way anybody would laugh. It's a good joke, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But it's so weird, or it's just kind of a weird reference or something like that. There's a really funny Game of Thrones joke that I have that I've never ever told, because even though Game of Thrones is a really popular show, you never know who you're going to get
for sure
with an audience. But if you have a fan base, you know that these are the people that have come to see you. So you can get away with stuff. And maybe that's it. I mean, especially if he did it in Denver, his hometown.
Yeah.
I've heard, I've never actually been there before, but I've done shows with other comedians that have done shows in Denver, and apparently it has a really cool comedy scene. There's quite a lot of clubs there, and so it does really well. So maybe the people are a little bit more open to experimental stuff. I don't know. I've never been there, but yeah, he's an acquired taste for sure.
Did TJ Miller start as a stand-up comedian?
I believe so, yeah.
I didn't know if that was something he picked up once he...
No, I think he started... Most stand-ups, that's what you do to begin with, because it takes so long to kind of craft who you are.
It didn't seem like he was very good. And that's the only special I've seen of his. I've not watched any of his other stuff, so I didn't know what to expect going into it, I guess. But it just didn't seem like he was very good. So
have you ever watched... and I haven't watched the whole first season, which is a shame. It just kind of got lost in the shuffle of things. But I've seen the first couple episodes of Crashing.
No, I've never heard of it.
It's really good. I like it quite a lot. It's Pete Holmes, which I don't know.
Yeah, I will listen to one of his podcasts on the plane.
And it's kind of like a fictionalized version of how he started in stand-up. I don't know if it's like autobiographical or anything like that, but TJ Miller has a couple episodes in it. They become friends, and it's TJ Miller as TJ Miller.
Okay.
So it's actually pretty cool.
I don't know. I don't really like Pete Holmes that much.
I've grown to like his stand-up a little bit more than I used to. Like when he was on Conan, I couldn't stand him. And I didn't really like the Pete Holmes show. I think I actually talked about the Pete Holmes show long time ago. Don't ever listen to that episode, because it was like one of our maybe first 20 episodes or something like that, when we were still pretty awkward. But I don't know. I've kind of grown to like him a little bit. I watched his last special, and it was pretty good, but I really like Crashing quite a lot.
Okay, cool. So what are you into this week, man?
I am into a new Netflix series called Glow that stars Alison Brie, who is most known, as far as I'm concerned, for Community, which is a show that I like quite a lot. She's also known for Sleeping with Other People, which is a movie that I didn't quite like as much as most people did, but I mean, she's still pretty good in it. GLOW stands for Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, which apparently I did not know this going into it, but that was a real thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, apparently it was a real wrestling circuit in the 80s, and I guess it was a show as well. This is a fictionalized version. It's not like they're trying to tell the story of how this happened. It's just kind of like the inspiration for this show. Bree stars as Ruth Wilder, who is a struggling actress desperate for stardom, who takes an unconventional audition. I started binging this last night. There's 10 episodes, about, I think, 25 to like 40 minutes long. Like, I think it depends on the episode. I only got about 5 episodes in last night. Don't know if I'll actually finish it, because even though it's a really solid show, I really love the atmosphere and the music. It's set in the 80s, like I said. So, I mean, the costumes, I mean, the clothes that they wear, but their costumes in the show, and the music and just the atmosphere of it is really cool. The first couple episodes are really, really funny, but after that, it kind of drags for me. I think it suffers mostly because there's so many characters in the show, and they try to develop all of them individually. Because there's so many characters, I feel like it kind of drags the show a little bit, and the plot doesn't really kind of move as quickly as you need it to, especially if you're only going to do 10 episodes, 30 minutes long, essentially. You don't really have a ton of time with all these characters, so it seems like it kind of drags a little bit. But the main problem that I have with this show is that the main character is really, really hard to root for, and it's not that she's an anti-hero or anything like that, so I can get behind that. Like, even if it's a character that it's hard to root for them because they're not a very good person, which in time she's not a very good person. It's just, for me, she's unbearably annoying. Every time she speaks, I want to metaphorically punch her in the face. Like, her character is just unbelievably annoying, and I can't imagine anyone would want to spend more than like 30 seconds with her. So that's my big complaint, is just I cannot get behind that character. I think Brie does a really good job with the character. I just think that it's written in a way that she is completely unlikable.
Yeah, she plays that role. Like, I don't know her from Community because I never watched Community, but it seems like she's played that role frequently, where she's like the friend that is really annoying. And I forget what movie it is. She's married to somebody, and it's not Sleeping with Other People. Is she in the 5-year engagement?
No, that's before I think she started getting into movies.
Oh, it was Get Hard. She's in Get Hard, and she kind of plays like a trophy wife, and she was in the 5-year engagement. So
oh, really?
So fuck you. But she kind of plays that bitchy character really well, and I can kind of see that too, because her character is supposed to be like the main character. I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know if I'd say hero, but you are supposed to root for her, and she's kind of got that attitude that's off-putting, which I hate saying that because I do like her as an actress, but I think that she plays the character really weird in this show. So, I started this show this morning, and I watched 5 episodes before I came over this afternoon, and I like it. So I have a soft spot for wrestling, though, and we've kind of talked about it once or twice on the podcast before, but I was super into wrestling when I was younger, and I love stories about creating wrestling, because obviously it's this big fictional thing, and there's work that's put into that. So like the movie The Wrestler, I like, and then I thought that this was an awesome idea for a show, doing it about a group of women and putting together this promotion. So I've really enjoyed it. I will say, after I watched the pilot, I was like, holy shit, this show is amazing.
Yeah, that first episode is really fucking funny.
Like, I was like, oh my God, here we go. This is going to be awesome. And now finishing episode 5, I think we're like at the same exact spot. I'm not as in love with it as I was after that first episode. So I'm hoping that they really come through in the second half of the season as they kind of progress. And I do like that each character is like working on their in-ring persona, and I want to see all of that come together. And I kind of have the feeling that we won't see that until episode 10, if at all.
Yeah, so I would think that it'd probably be in the second season.
So that's kind of what's weird about that aspect of it is all the promotion for it makes it look like it's already like this up and thing that's already happening, and you're kind of watching these successful wrestlers, but it's just about the building of it, which is it's okay. Like, Mark Maron is really funny. I like him a lot, and he brings like that fun aspect to the show that I think is really funny. But yeah, I definitely agree with a couple of the things you've said. I'm not as in love with it as I was at first.
Yeah, and I'd heard some really cool things about it, some really good reviews, and so maybe my expectations were a little high, especially after coming in with those expectations and with the good reviews. And then after the first couple episodes, I was like, man, I'm going to absolutely love this show. And then it was tough to watch for a couple episodes there, which is sad because it's only 30 minutes long. So it's not like you're investing all that much time. It's a pretty easy watch as far as time commitment's concerned. But there was a couple episodes that I'm just like, is it over yet?
No, it's definitely feel like it's stalled out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you ready for some comics?
Yeah, what'd you read this week?
So I read a few different things. I got caught up on, well, I thought I was caught up on Secret Empire, but then issue 4 came in the mail today. So I'm not caught up, but I was excited to start reading that because you've talked about it quite a bit and I like it so far. So I'm excited to keep going with that. So I read that on the plane. But the comic I want to talk about this week is a comic that you and I have both talked about. And now that it's concluded, I kind of felt like we should circle back around to it and just bring it up one more time since it was just 6 issues and the story's kind of wrapped up. And that is Reborn.
Okay.
So Reborn 6 came out a few weeks ago. It's been out for a while, but again, I just wanted to touch base on the story now that it is done. So this issue did see the conclusion of Bonnie's story that was started 6 issues ago. And while it's definitely left open to a continue, and I think that they'll end up doing more books, book 1 is complete. And for me, I'm not ever a fan of a comic extending its run after the fact. So we've talked about it a lot with Marvel. Civil War 2 extended an issue after they had already started, and Secret War extended to another issue after it started. But I think that Reborn would have benefited from doing that. I just thought that there was a lot to wrap up in this last issue. And, you know, it's basically 5 issues of build up to this one comic that wraps everything up nicely with this big confrontation as well as the potential reunion of Bonnie and her husband Harry. And it was just too much to fit in one comic. It's a really fun issue. I just would have liked more time with those storylines, especially the resolution of Harry and Bonnie. I mean, that's kind of been the whole premise of the book, and that's what really drew me into it. And while there was a wrench thrown into the relationship an issue or 2 ago, I think that theme is one of the reasons that I gravitated towards the book so much. You know, afterlife is not a given. And of course, I think you and I both have crisis of faith and don't know that we believe in God and yada, yada, yada. But I think that everyone, even atheists, want there to be something after this life because we want to see our loved ones again. So by the time Bonnie and Harry reconnect, we're only treated to what seems like, I think, 2 pages of dialogue between them. And I wanted to see more. And it was just kind of, all right, we're saved. And, and they don't really have a lot of back and forth. And that was really disappointing to me. So all in all, it's still a fantastic book. And it's incredibly imaginative and it's fun. And I'm excited for the prospect of a book 2. I think I read the interview with Mark Millar and a couple of the other people that worked on it at the end of this issue. And it made it sound like he wants to do 5 books. And I'm curious what that'll look like from a time frame perspective because Greg Capullo signed a deal with DC. So I wonder if it will be with a different artist or what that will look like. But I am excited to see this book continue. One thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, though, is in that same interview, he talked about wanting to do it as a TV show instead of as a movie. And it made it sound like they just made this comic so that it could eventually be adapted in another medium, which they do a lot with a lot of his work.
Yep.
But that turned me off a lot. I was like, don't just make this comic to make it a movie or a TV show. Like, put all of it into the comic, and then if it's strong enough, turn it into something else. But it sounds like he's kind of gone into it with his mindset that this is going to be a TV show, and that's off-putting.
Yeah, it's always weird when they do that. Like, I know Secret Service, I mean, they went into it knowing that it was going to be a movie. I know that Seth Grahame-Smith did that with I can't remember what it was it the Three Wise Men book? I can't remember what book it was, but it felt like as I was reading it, because they already had the movie optioned or something like that, I could almost feel like he knew that was going to happen. And there was a couple of scenes where it was just like he was almost writing it to be a movie, and it was very, very distracting. And maybe I had just gotten in my own head about it, but it just felt like it was that scene was written for it to eventually be a movie, and that was pretty annoying and distracting. So hopefully that's not what happens eventually with this book, because I really enjoyed it. I have not read issue 6 yet. I just haven't gotten around to it, but I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Cool. So what did you read this week?
I read Darth Vader number 2. If you remember, I really loved the first run of this book. I kind of consider this the second volume, though. It's not a continuation of the first book. They're telling a completely different story. It's a completely different time in Vader's life. Issue 1 picks up from that really cringeworthy moment in episode 3, that no at the end of episode 3, which kind of puts a sour taste in your mouth after a really, really solid prequel movie. This comic picks up where that left off, which already kind of off to a rocky start, but they rebound really quickly. This comic is basically about Vader getting his red saber, because they explain that Jedi sabers are given and Sith sabers are taken, so he has to go take his. So I think that's kind of a really cool concept. And just issue 2, like issue 1, they kind of explain that, and then issue 2, Vader begins his search for his lightsaber. And in volume 1, you got to see, I mean, one of the main reasons I love that run was because you got to see a more vulnerable side of Vader, not the punk bitch Anakin Skywalker vulnerable side that you see in the prequels that are super just like angsty teenager, just really annoying. You kind of just see a badass, but he also has this vulnerable side. So I really like that. But this issue is kind of the polar opposite of that issue 2. He's just a total fucking badass in this issue, and it was really kind of cool after you have this 25, I think, issue run in volume 1 where, yeah, you do get to see him be a badass occasionally, especially with Vader down that arc during his book. You do get to kind of see him be a badass occasionally, but you do, again, get to see a more vulnerable side. It's kind of cool to see the opposite. He's very raw at this point in his life, following episode 3. So I just like that he's just murdering everyone. Nobody's going to stand in his way. Like, there's literally a point in this book where he could just give them the codes, and that they know that it's him, and they'll let him in and he'll be fine. And he purposely goes out of his way to murder these pilots because he's just like, the emotion is still really raw for him. The artwork also really shined in this book. I think it's been great, though. I mean, Marvel taking over Star Wars, the comic books have all been really good. And this comic is no different. I don't think it quite lives up to the standard of the first run, because I really, really liked volume 1, or at least what I'm calling volume 1. I don't know if that's the official title of that book or not. It's not quite up to that standard, but it's not that far off either.
Yeah, so this is a book that I've bought and I'm planning on reading. I feel bad because I never finished that first run of Darth Vader, and I wish I had, but obviously, I think there's a lot of story to tell between what happens with him in the 20 years between 3 and 4.
Yeah, for sure.
It's cool that they're doing that. I'm curious if they'll ever make a film that shows that, and if it will ever make some of this not canon, because at some point they're going to make a Darth Vader movie, I'm sure, and that seems like the perfect time period to do it. But that's something to talk about at a later date once they get to that point. So I'm excited to read it. I did read the one page where it's explained why Sith sabers are red with like the kyber crystals. So just that kind of deep cuts is, I think, what's going to make this book fun.
Oh yeah, and there's a pretty cool cliffhanger at the end of issue 2 that I'm really, really excited for issue 3.
Awesome.
All right, so what's nerd news this week?
So I just have 3 stories, but one of them was a doozy, so we'll save that for last, but I'm sure you can guess what that is. So there was some news on Wonder Woman 2. Jeff Johns and Patty Jenkins are writing it, which I think is a great call. And they basically said it's going to be set in the past. They were kind of cheeky, and they said it will be sometime between 1917 and 2017. But basically, they're not going to bring it up to, Justice League, that time frame. They're going to tell another story of her in the past, which I think is an interesting call, but I think that works out well, because there's 100 years there where we don't know where she's been or what she's been doing. So I'm sure there's a lot of story to tell there.
Yeah. I think I kind of mentioned this a little bit when we reviewed Wonder Woman a few episodes back. It would seem like it'd be a missed opportunity if you didn't do it like that.
Yeah.
Now, maybe a second or third film, maybe you try to start tying it more into Justice League.
Yeah.
Because if Marvel had done Captain America immediately, like following Thor, like that would have been weird because you have this character that has all this rich backstory in the past. Yeah. Why wouldn't you do that? It would seem like a missed opportunity if they didn't do the same with Wonder Woman. Now, I don't know if how far ahead they have this planned. With DC, I would guess not very far, judging by their track record. But one more film would be cool. But then eventually you got to start tying her into the actual Justice League.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I guess there wouldn't be much story at this point to tell with her because we know that she comes into Batman v Superman, and then we kind of see her between Batman v Superman and Justice League at the beginning of Wonder Woman, and then of course we'll see her adventures in Justice League. So I don't know, maybe do like a Vietnam War movie. I don't know what you do with her, but I'll be interested. I think that both of them writing it makes for a good omen. So
for sure.
This one is disappointing, and it caught me off guard a little bit, but I guess it makes sense. He hasn't been in anything in a while. Daniel Day-Lewis has retired from acting, which I'm a big Daniel Day-Lewis fan. I think that he's a phenomenal actor, and I love him in Gangs of New York. That's one of my favorite performances ever. So, but he's always been weird. So,
yeah.
I mean, he's method, but he's super method.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that every time he does a role, it's extremely exhausting, and that's probably what pushed him there. He probably has other things in his life that he enjoys doing. But yeah, he's not making movies anymore, allegedly.
Yeah, I'll see how long that lasts, because it seems like, yeah, he hasn't been in anything in a while. I mean, has he been anything since Lincoln?
I think that's his last movie.
Which, I mean, he was phenomenal in that. I really like that movie quite a lot. It just seems like someone that is that into it, which you would have to be to kind of put in the effort that he does. It doesn't seem like it would be something that you could just give up that easily.
Yeah, I agree with that, but he did his movies so few and far between too. So
yeah,
maybe he'll come back to it in older age. But yeah, it was disappointing for me just because I typically love his work. He just puts everything out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then last but certainly not least, there was a weird shakeup this week with Star Wars. So Han Solo, of course, everybody knows by now, Phil Lord and Chris Miller were fired from directing the Han Solo spin-off movie like halfway through production, if not further than halfway. Both them and Kathleen Kennedy put out statements that kind of said creative differences, but Ron Howard has been asked to step in, and he's going to finish out the movie. And it turns out that at some point during the Han Solo hiatus, the Lord and Miller, they talked to DC about Flash again, so they might be going back to the Flash.
So there's 3 different stories.
So there's
here.
there's a lot in there to process.
So them leaving, I mean, we'll never really know probably for sure what exactly happened, because at first it was kind of reported that they were just leaving. Like it was just kind of a mutual thing. And then, of course, as the days kind of passed, it was leaked that they were actually fired, and they had problems with the screenwriter and this whole other, like, again, we'll never really know the shitstorm that happened, because for a big movie like this, like these indie movies that change hands or whatever, like that's not that big of a deal. But this is Star Wars, like the biggest franchise in the world. For them to fire somebody, especially with a team that has so much clout right now, they had to have gotten to a breaking point, like a point of no return, where they just couldn't stand each other and they had to just part ways. So it's very, very surprising, and I'd like to eventually know exactly what happened, but I doubt we would. As far as them leaving, that really sucks, because I thought that they were kind of perfect for that character. And I've heard, which I think is silly, I've heard that part of the reasoning was that they were trying to make it more comedic, and that Disney and the screenwriter, and I don't know his name, but he's
Lawrence Kasdan.
Yeah, he's written a few Star Wars movies, so he certainly knows how to do it. So it's kind of hard to argue with him. Yeah. But basically, Han Solo is not a comedic character; he's more of a sarcastic character. And I'm like, I mean, you're really just kind of arguing semantics, though, at that point, because he is used in a comedic relief type of way in the original trilogy. Yeah, he becomes much more of that later in the movies, but especially in that first movie, I mean, he's much more of the comedic relief in that movie. So to say that he's not a comedic character, I kind of feel like is...
I had heard that they were doing a lot of improv.
Yeah, that probably also.
I mean, and look at the cast. Like, of course, Donald Glover, I'm sure, is great at improving stuff. And I don't know much about. I forget his name. The guy who's playing Tom
Hail
Solo.
Caesar. Yeah,
the Hail Caesar guy. I don't know much about him, but it seems like maybe they were going off script too much, and it was turning into something that wasn't even written. Yeah. So I don't know. I love Miller and Lord, and I think that they've done amazing work, but Lawrence Kasdan wrote Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
And The Force Awakens.
And The Force Awakens. And at that point, I put my trust with him as far as Star Wars goes. So I do hate to see this happen because I can't imagine it bodes well for the movie. As much as they can put a Band-Aid on it in the next year, I don't know that this will be Rogue One where it's able to turn around and be made successfully without delaying it. So
yeah, it's kind of weird because as nervous as I was for Force Awakens, obviously I was also really, really equally excited for it. Once that came out and it was so good, and then Rogue One came out, you're like, okay, Star Wars is untouchable again. Like, they cannot make a bad movie. And then the flaws are already starting to show a little bit with the Han Solo stuff. And it's like, come on, like, we're not even 3 movies into this, like, relaunch of the franchise, so to speak. So it's already kind of starting to show a little bit, and it's a little bit depressing and making me a little anxious.
It's interesting because somebody said something to Ryan Johnson on Twitter, and he basically said, I've had as much creative control on The Last Jedi as I have on any of the movies I've ever made. Yeah. So I doubt that it was anything with creative control. Maybe they had too much creative control and they did something that Lucasfilm and Disney weren't on board with. So I don't know. Hopefully it'll come out one day because I'm super curious about it. But for now, it's just kind of, yeah, we got fired. All right, on to the next one. So
what do you think about Ron Howard?
I wonder how much work he even has to do.
I mean, it was going to come out in 2018. So, I mean, it still has quite a lot. I'm sure, have they even started filming yet?
Yeah, they're like halfway done.
Oh, really? I didn't know they
more than half. I think they have reshoots and a little bit left.
I know there's so much pre-production on movies like this, so I wasn't sure if they'd even started with the actual filming yet. So I don't know. It just seems like he probably has more than Josh Whedon does on Justice League. I mean, he basically had very little, I would imagine, to do left on that film. But I don't know. I mean, he'll do a fine job. He knows movies. He knows how to shoot. So I'm sure that'll be fine. Obviously, it's going to go more to whatever's written on the page, it seems like. But
but he'll be able to get a good performance out of the actors if that's
for sure
that they're doing.
So the third part of that story, how do you feel about them potentially, now the deal hasn't been made or anything like that? No official release or anything like that.
No, and I'm curious to see if it actually happened. I know they were attached to it at one point.
I thought they wrote a treatment for it.
And they did write a treatment for it, but if there were to be a movie where there could be improv and they need comedy and that kind of stuff, it would be The Flash. So,
for sure.
I'm all on board for that, but I'm curious to see if it will happen or not.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I kind of have a feeling that it won't, but we'll see.
All right.
So that's it for Nerd News, man.
All right, cool, man. So the next segment is just kind of just dubbed the main topic because it changes from episode to episode. Before we get started, I think it's safe for me to speak for the both of us when I say that we love the podcast. We love that you guys check us out every week, but we do not love you enough to watch the new fucking Transformers movie because fuck that. Like, that was the big thing that was going to come out this week, and I refuse to ever spend another minute watching those movies. They are garbage. and we were kind of kicking back and forth what we were going to do this week as far as the main topic was concerned. And Tyler had suggested us doing another film retrospective because we haven't done one of those in a while. Like I said, there's nothing real big other than Transformers that came out this week. Nothing real big that comes out next week except for maybe Despicable Me 3, which spoiler alert, will probably end up being what I'm into, and Baby Driver, which looks really cool. I'm excited for that as well.
Yeah, Baby Driver looks awesome.
But I don't know if this is necessarily something that we're going to review. Well, I know now we won't. But because we're going to take the next 2 weeks, since we reviewed Cars 3 last week, we decided, since we haven't done a film retrospective in a while, we're going to take the next 2 weeks, starting obviously this episode, to do a Pixar retrospective. Obviously, Pixar has been a staple for decades now. They have 18 total films, so we're going to break this into 2 weeks, like I said. So mathematically, it kind of works out perfectly. We're going to do 9 this episode and 9 next episode. Yeah.
So I'm excited. Obviously, we talk about it all the time. What a big Disney fan I am, and Pixar holds a special place in my heart. So I'm excited to do this, and I'm also excited to not have to go see The Last Night. So
there was no way. I would have just skipped. I would have just, you could either review it by yourself or we could just not have an episode. Like, I wasn't going to go fucking see that movie.
I'm wearing a Transformers shirt just because I thought that it'd be funny. It was in a loot crate that I opened it. It came while I was
I actually really like that shirt. I wish I liked the show. I mean, like I watched the show occasionally as a kid, but it was a little bit kind of like maybe a couple of years before my time. But I have some friends that are a little bit older than I am, so it's kind of like their Ninja Turtles, which I can appreciate. I really like the shirt though. By the way,
no, the shirt's awesome. And I mean, I wasn't into the original show that the shirt's based off of, but I mean, I like the first Transformers movie. There was a weird Transformers show on in the 90s that I liked where there were animals. I forget what it's called. Looking back, it was really bad, but I was
it Beast Wars? I think that was something else.
Like, I had the toys and stuff, so I was super into Transformers, so I'm not going to let these movies define it for me, so I'm wearing this shirt out of protest. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm definitely excited to do a Pixar retrospective. This is right up my alley. So,
all right. So jumping right in, obviously the first Pixar film that we're going to talk about, we're just going to talk about them in chronological order, obviously, is Toy Story, which was released in 95. It was directed by John Lasseter. There are quite a few directors on most of these films. There's no way that I'm going to pronounce them all right. I guarantee you that I'm going to mispronounce almost all of them, so I apologize in advance for that. But he has an easier name, so I think I nailed that one. Of course, Toy Story started it all, not just for Pixar, but for computer animated feature films. This was actually the first completely computer animated feature film. I don't want to say that this film started my love for the anime genre. We've talked a lot in the past that we both are huge fans of the genre because Lion King and kind of Disney had already planted that seed
for sure
years before, but Toy Story definitely solidified it for me. I don't think I've ever met anyone that has a bad thing to say about Toy Story. And I was actually, when I was prepping for this retrospective, I was just kind of curious because we talk so much about Rotten Tomatoes with it being the film draft and all that other stuff. It actually has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is, I mean, it makes sense because it's such a great film, but that's so hard to do. I think it has like 78 reviews too. So to have 100%, because a lot of times people are just douchebags about it, just want to be different for the sake of being different. Even like The Godfather, which is like considered one of the best movies ever made, has like a 99%. So not everybody could even agree on that one. So I was just curious, and I've never met anyone that doesn't like this movie. It seems with Toy Story, it's kind of I don't want to say it's an easy concept because I mean they certainly make it more complicated than it. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be, but it just seems like an animated film about toys is just kind of like a match made in heaven, but because it's Pixar and we're going to get to this in later films, I'm sure, but they take it to the whole new level. Like They could have been satisfied with just, okay, we have this cool concept, this kind of easy, just like, we're going to sell a bunch of toys because it's an animated movie about toys. But they took it to this whole other level, and the characters are so diverse, and there's so many different layers to not just the plot, but also the characters that really drive this movie and kind of take it over the edge.
Yeah, it could have been easy enough for them to say, hey, we want to make the first feature film that's completely computer animated and just phone it in on the story.
Yeah,
because
you could have just been a cool trivia answer.
Yeah, I mean, well, that would have been enough to get asses in seats. Like, holy shit, this looks like nothing we've ever seen before. But instead, they not only do that, but they make a fantastic story with like this rich world of different characters. And it was a game changer. And that's why Pixar is still around today, because they hit it off so great with that first movie. For me personally, it definitely came out at the perfect time for me when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I was 6 years old when this movie came out, and I loved my toys and loved playing with my toys. So this was just like spoke to me and spoke to all my friends. And I remember us playing. It sounds really dumb now, but we were like played Toy Story, and we'd each be characters at recess or whatever, and it's really fucking dumb, but like that's just how much
it sounds like you guys were super lame.
Yeah, we were super cool kids, but we obviously loved this movie, and it played to us really well, and that kind of sums up the whole series for me, and we'll talk about that in later movies. But it was just significant, not only in regard to shaping Disney future, but in also regard to animation as a whole, and my continued love of animation into adulthood. So you said like, we had Lion King, this and that. And I definitely as well can't say this was the movie that made me love animated movies, because Aladdin and Lion King and all the older Disney movies I had on VHS, but this was something else that kind of bridged it for me to keep loving it. And yeah, it was just a super exciting movie to watch over and over again, especially once it was out on VHS. So
spoiler alert, I am really looking forward to our argument that's going to come next week about Toy Story 3.
Okay.
Like, I'm super excited for it.
I already know what the argument's going to be, too. So it's funny, before we do anything else with Toy Story and move away from Toy Story, it's funny because there was a story that came out today about the original Toy Story movie, and I thought that it was so weird that I read it today, and we were doing this Pixar retrospective, and it was about Andy's dad.
Oh, yeah?
So it was apparently, I guess the writer of this movie had written some backstory for what happened to Andy's dad. So I guess maybe kind of frame things, and who knows if it's real, but this guy that worked close with him and is big in Pixar put it out there on Twitter, and it's super fucking depressing, but I want to tell it to you quickly. So Andy's dad apparently was born in like the 1940s or something and had polio, and he had these toys, and so the toys were, I think it was like Slinky, the Ham, and Woody were his toys, and Andy's name on the bottom of his foot is Andy's dad, who was also named Andy. He was Andy Sr., and he gets over his polio or whatever, and then it restrikes him in adulthood, and there's some real way that it comes back, and he's like on his deathbed, and he has these toys up in the attic in a chest, and he gives the key to Andy to go get the toys from the chest, or to go get this chest or whatever. And by the time Andy gets back down with the chest, his dad dies. And so he opens the chest and finds these toys. And of course, he's in love with these toys because they were his dad's toys and they were like heirlooms. And the toys awake from their slumber and don't realize that the kid Andy is not the same Andy they grew up with, which was his dad. And so that's why Woody doesn't have any memory of like Woody's Roundup or anything. And
I was going to say, does that work? The timetable works
I
with
have
the
no
second
idea.
one?
I didn't research it a whole lot. I just thought it was super fucked up.
Yeah, that's super depressing.
Because everybody's like, where's Andy's dad? Did he die? Were they divorced? And apparently he had polio.
Why the polio?
I don't know.
That's a weird.
I don't know. But it was super weird to read that, and it's super, I don't know. I don't know how accurate it is. I encourage everybody to look it up because there's more details to that I'm forgetting, but that's the gist of it. And a really detailed background for a character you never even meet. So
yeah,
I don't know how.
And Andy's really not a character you really, I mean, you know about him, but he's not obviously a main character in the story. So to have this backstory to this person that doesn't really affect the story that much.
Yeah. Like he never has daddy issues or anything.
No.
Like it's a single mom family. So I don't know why that background exists. I don't know how true it is, but I did want to bring it up since it kind of coincided with our Pixar retrospective.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, given the fact that it seems like they're so meticulous with everything that they do, there's probably a reason why she's a single parent.
So apparently the guy who wrote it has passed away. So it won't ever be able to be like, oh yeah, for sure, that was my idea behind it. It was just this guy that worked with him said, hey, this is what it was. So again, who knows how real it is, but
really super depressing.
Yeah, it was pretty dark. Especially because that first movie, obviously things get dark in Toy Story 3, and we'll talk about that next.
Should have been darker.
But that first movie is not dark at all, so that's just weird.
Yeah, for sure. So the next film in their filmography is A Bug's Life, which was released in 98. It was directed by Lasseter as well, and alongside Andrew Stanton. And I don't know about you, Tyler, but this is a rough one for me as far as my knowledge of the film.
Oh, okay.
I was 9 when it first came out, so obviously a couple of years older than obviously I was with Toy Story, but I haven't seen it as much as I've seen Toy Story. At the time when it came out, I didn't know anything about movie studios. It didn't fucking matter at all. Yeah. Like, I knew the little light bulb that came on the screen that meant that it was the same people, but I wasn't brand loyal like I am now. Like, Pixar didn't fucking mean anything to me at the time. And I remember Ants had just come out, and I want to say that, and I didn't look this up. I probably could have easily, obviously, looked this up, but I feel like it was like a month. Like, A Bug's Life came out like a month later, and it just seemed like, and it's stupid now to even think this way because they would have had both been working on for years. It just seemed like, oh, this is just an Ants ripoff, which of course it's not. They were just working they weren't working together, but working at the same time, because these movies take obviously so long to make. But I actually didn't watch it for a really long time because I was just like, well, I've seen Ants. That's basically the same movie, which is it's a shame because it's a solid movie, and I really appreciate how the story evolves. Like, you think you know what it's going to be, but it continually evolves. And especially for a little kid to watch this movie, like, that plot twists quite a few times in A Bug's Life. So it's not certainly as memorable for me as Toy Story is, and it kind of gets forgotten as far as I'm concerned as when we're talking about the total of the Pixar filmography, but it's still a really solid movie.
Yeah, there's a story there about Ants and Bug's Life, and I've heard it before, but I don't remember it enough to tell it and speak to it. But I want to say that it was something like somebody from Pixar went and worked at, is it DreamWorks that made Ants? I don't remember who made Ants, but they went and worked there and like, hey, they're making a bug movie. And then they started making like competing movies. So I don't know how accurate that part of it is, but I do know that they were competing with each other, and Ants came out a month before Bug's Life. So,
oh, did you look that up? So I was right.
It came out in October 98, and then Bug's Life came out in November 98. So that's fucked up.
Yeah, so I just seen Ants, and I was like, because I was a stupid kid, I was like, they just made an Ants ripoff, which obviously that didn't happen because, again, it takes years for them to make these types of movies, especially back then.
So I definitely think this movie is underrated, and it's forgotten because of that, because it came out right around Ants, and I think that put a damper on it for sure. I love the story. I love Flick being the underdog, and the side characters that he gets to come save the ants from the grasshoppers are endlessly entertaining, and I still laugh at the jokes, and in my opinion, it's unjustly forgotten. You know, this movie continued the themes within Toy Story of Pixar just being so imaginative, and the animation I think still holds up today. It's heartwarming, it's funny, it's just classic Pixar, and this movie's forgotten, but I love that there's still an attraction at Disney World. At Animal Kingdom, it's a theater show with like animatronics and stuff. It's called It's Tough to Be a Bug. Did you ever do that?
No.
So what's funny about It's Tough to Be a Bug is it's kind of terrifying. And anytime I've ever gone to it when we've gone to Disney World, kids freak the fuck out. And it's hilarious because
that would make me so uncomfortable.
It's like a 3D movie, but there's at one point like Hopper comes out, and it's an animatronic Hopper, and he's like, oh, why are you showing this movie to these humans? They kill bugs. And so he starts to torture the humans, and they have like hornets come and sting you, and your seat pokes you. and kids start freaking out with that. And then they send spiders down from the ceilings, and spiders, like tons of spiders, just drop down, and the kids freak out with that. It's fucking hilarious. So I can't believe this thing still exists.
I was going to say, it seems like somebody would have complained by now.
Yeah, it terrifies children, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's frightening. I can't imagine that goes over very well, but I actually forget that this movie's Pixar, so I'm definitely in that boat that overlooks this movie a lot, because when I was doing like prepping for this, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, because I knew that there was a movie in between the two Toy Stories, but I could not remember which one it was. If I had to guess, it was Ants. Ants was in between those two movies. No, I mean, which is a shame, because the stories actually aren't even close to similar. If you remember, have you ever even seen Ants?
I saw Ants on VHS when I was a kid, and I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, I mean, they're completely different movies. So
I think just feature ants.
Yes, they both have ants, and they spell ants with a Z for some strange reason. They never explain why. I'm surprised that I liked that movie, because it actually is a really solid movie, by the way. I don't like the sound of Woody Allen's voice. I really don't like his voice.
I'm not familiar enough with Woody Allen, to be honest. I don't know that I've ever seen a Woody Allen movie. I don't think.
I mean, you've seen Ants.
Well, yeah, I guess when I was a kid, I saw Ants, so that's about as close as it gets.
No, I unfortunately can't speak too much about this movie, because I've only seen it a couple of times.
I think it holds up. I think it's worth a rewatch.
Okay, cool. So the next movie, like I said, is Toy Story 2, which was released in 1999. It was directed by Lasseter. Lee Unrich, yeah, the guy who directed Toy Story 3. Yes. And Ash Brannon, which that name sounds made up. He definitely made that name up for sure. And for me, Toy Story 2, it's hard for a sequel to live up to such a high standard, especially the high standard that Toy Story set, but it's pretty damn close. I think this also has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, if I'm remembering correctly. The only thing that I would knock it for is when you kind of break down the plot, it's pretty similar to the first one. It's like Woody trying to get back to the group, but there's so many different layers to it. It doesn't necessarily, that part of it, that small part of it doesn't really necessarily bother me that much. Like you have the layer of Woody not wanting to be discarded, which again, kind of similar to what he's feeling in the first one. But then you have him kind of being excited to find out that he's this actually collectible thing that people are after. And then you have, of course, Jesse wanting to go to the museum and not wanting to be put back in storage. Then, of course, you have the rest of the group trying to get Woody back. And there's so many different layers to it that even though it does kind of follow a similar formula, they took it to a whole new level, just like we talked about with Toy Story. They could have settled with just that same old movie, but they are Pixar, so they don't settle with anything.
Yeah, so I love the story of the production of this movie. So Disney is known for making shitty direct-to-video sequels of its famous films.
Yes.
And this was supposed to kind of be in that vein. And it turned out to be so good that they retooled it and put it in theaters and made it like a full-fledged feature film. And sequels are more often a letdown than a success. And I thought this movie did a great job building on the world with a bit more groundwork than the first story set. I like the little things from the first movie that they tease at the end of it, just as kind of like off jokes that pay off in this movie, like Andy getting a puppy and the introduction of Mrs. Potato Head. Like, I think that pays off really well joke wise in this movie. And I also love the new characters it introduces, Jesse and Bullseye and Stinky Pete, which Kelsey Grammer does a great job as Stinky Pete and being the villain. It's hilarious. This film, even though, like you said, it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and it is universally liked, I think that it is also overlooked a little bit because there was so much success with Toy Story 3, and this is just kind of like the middle movie at this point. But
it's my least favorite, and I don't want to say that as like, oh, it's negative, sure, because all three of them are really good. But out of the three, I mean, if you had to pick, this is definitely my least favorite.
For sure. I definitely agree with that, but I also think that it's a worthy successor to the first movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Cool.
All right, so I'm really excited to talk about this next movie.
Awesome.
So, Monsters Inc. was released in '01. It was directed by Peter Dr. Lee Onrick, which is that name again.
He's going to come up a lot. I think we just need to find out how it's pronounced. So
I'm going to go with Onrick, and I'm just going to go with it. And I guarantee you that's not how you pronounce it. And David Silverman. This was the first Pixar movie, feature film that was not directed by Lasseter. And honestly, as much as I especially like Toy Story and Bug's Life, the concepts seem pretty, I don't want to say generic, but pretty easy concept. Like, you have an anime movie about toys, and then, you have basically the same concept, but just with bugs. This was the first Pixar movie that I felt like was a really high concept.
Yeah.
It was super complicated, and I absolutely love it. Like, we've talked about this before with, I can't remember what it was that we were talking about. Like, how could you have possibly thought this one up? And I can't imagine how somebody would have been able to think this one up. Like, it's a really, really cool concept that basically the monsters under your bed or in your closet are actually there, and then they need your screams to power their their electricity is powered by screams. And I just think
my orgasms are powered by screams.
I'm so uncomfortable. My dick just went into my body. God damn it.
Sorry, continue talking about this children's movie.
Yeah, I was like, why do we have to make every discussion about animated movies super, super awkward? Anyways, I think that the concept is just so cool. And I mean, it's just so well executed. I like Billy Crystal. I'm not a huge fan. I like his comedy, even though, I don't know, it kind of gets a little stale for me, but I thought he was an excellent, that perfect blend of, his voice, but it doesn't kind of overpower the film. So I thought he was really good. John Goodman's really good in this movie as well. Steve Buscemi, they really picked their voice actors really well in this movie as well.
Yeah, I mean, this fucking movie, man. This movie is like a fine wine, and I think that it's gotten better with age, in my opinion. Like, I liked it as much.
How long have you been waiting to use that? And you just broke your phone. I can't edit that sound out, so we have to explain what that was.
What, the fine wine thing?
No. Oh, yeah. How long have you been waiting to use that?
Oh, I don't know. I just put it in my fucking notes, man. No, I mean, I liked it as a kid, but I think I appreciate it more now as an adult.
Wine? Nah, that was stupid.
What?
That was just a joke. I'm sorry. Continue. It was stupid. Don't worry about it. I also can't edit that out either.
I didn't even hear what you said, so we'll just keep going, I guess. I don't even know what I'm fucking saying anymore.
Fine wine.
Yeah, fine wine. I definitely want to echo what you said about the creativity of this movie. I mean, as much as I love Pixar, I think that part of their writing process is, okay, what's something weird that we can make talk?
Yeah,
we make toys talk, we make bugs talk, we make cars talk. And this is a different concept that I really, really like quite a bit. And I think that it's Pixar's, like I said, it's its funniest movie. I also, of course, love the heart in this movie. I love the relationship between Sully and Boo, and it still tugs at my heartstrings towards the end of that movie where they have to say goodbye. And I think that this movie sets the bar for comedy in an animated film. It's so funny, so well thought out, and I just appreciate it now more as an adult for sure. So Monsters Inc. holds up, and I love it.
For sure. And kind of going back to what we've talked about a couple of different times, like, they could have been satisfied with this high concept, but then they added that extra layer of, they have all these details with the screams and all that stuff, but also the fact that these big monsters that we're supposed to be afraid of are actually afraid of us as well. So I think that was a really cool, just kind of an extra layer that they threw in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to be real honest. The next 4 films that we're going to talk about, I am not a huge fan of any of them, because I like, when we decided to do this, I was like, okay, well, I mean, it's going to kind of get boring because we're going to be like, oh man, now we love this one. We love this one. And then I started to get towards these middle films. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I don't really love every movie that they've ever done. So the next movie in their filmography is Finding Nemo, which was released in 2003. It's directed by Andrew Stanton and that goddamn son of a bitch, Lee Odrick.
I'm telling you,
he
man.
could be like the nicest guy ever. He just has a weird fucking last name. So we are definitely in the minority here. I do not like Finding Nemo. It's beautifully done. I mean, you have all these computer animation, so it's the ocean looks beautiful. The creatures look amazing, but again, like you said earlier, let's see what we can get to talk.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We've done toys, we've done bugs. Now let's do fish. It just doesn't seem like a high concept. And I don't know what it is. I just never really got into this movie.
Yeah. So this movie is beloved by a generation. This is like a generation's
for sure.
Toy Story. So I can appreciate that because of how much I love Toy Story, but I think that this movie was just a little too late for me. It came out at a time where I wasn't really watching a ton of movies, especially animated movies, and I didn't really have access to seeing it. I remember it being a huge hit, and when I did finally see it, I had really high expectations because I had heard such amazing things, and I was underwhelmed. I do think that it's a fun movie, and it does have heart, like the other movies we've talked about so far. I just never connected with it like I do with other Pixar movies. I think that there's creativity there, there's some humor there, but it's basically just wrong place, wrong time for me. I can appreciate that this movie exists, but I don't find myself revisiting it often. It's just...
Oh, I don't remember the last time I watched it.
I think I watched it before Finding Dory.
Yeah, even then I had no interest in watching it. I don't know. It's so weird because I've loved, well, maybe not love is a strong word for Bug's Life, but I do appreciate that movie quite a lot. And it's just like, it's so weird to think that this is the beginning of the end as far as I'm concerned. Now, I still love Pixar, don't get me wrong, but for me, that they're already showing a little bit of cracks right here. But this is probably their biggest movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I think financially it might be their biggest movie, which, I mean, I had a girlfriend in high school that this was like her favorite movie. She was watching it constantly, and I couldn't get behind it. I don't know why. I mean, it's a solid movie, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. I just never got attached to it like everybody else does. For me, this is kind of the cracks in Pixar are starting to show a little bit with their filmography, which is silly because this is one of their biggest hits and everybody loves this movie.
I'm sure, I don't know what the Rotten Tomatoes for this movie is, but I'm sure it's pretty high. Like,
it's got to be in the 90s for sure.
It's a loved movie, but yeah, for whatever reason, like you were saying, I can't attach myself to it. I don't know. With animated movies, the older you get to, you have to kind of be able to see something in it to make you appreciate it. And like we talked about not seeing that in Cars 3 last week, and this is kind of in the same vein. Not near as bad as Cars 3, don't get me wrong. This was a well-made movie, but it's just there's no connection to it.
All right, so moving right along. This next one, I think we're definitely going to disagree.
Oh, 100%.
And I don't have strong opinions on it. I'm just kind of indifferent to it, which is strange. So The Incredibles was released in 2004. It was directed by Brad Bird. This movie I have seen one time. Don't really know that much about it. Kind of was falling asleep while I was watching it.
That blows my mind.
I don't know why. I think it came out right around, I mean, obviously it came out after Finding Nemo, and I don't know, I was just so completely indifferent to that movie that I was just like, oh, Pixar is making another movie and it's a superhero movie. Like, I mean, I love superheroes, so it just seems like it would be such a weird movie for me not to like. And it's not that I don't like it, it's just that, I don't know, I just never really got into it.
I think you need to rewatch it because
for sure.
I think that you'd appreciate it quite a bit. So we talked about Finding Nemo and how it kind of missed us, and we just weren't into that at that point when that came out. And the reason that this movie didn't miss me like Finding Nemo did is because I was working at the movie theater when it came out, and I fell in love with it while I was working there. So every once in a while, on like a Saturday morning, a company would come in and buy out screens, and their whole company would come and watch movies. And so we had to be there to do concessions or whatever the fuck for the first couple hours, and then we get a couple hours off, and then we would start our day whenever matinees started up. So I stayed at the theater because I wasn't driving yet and watched The Incredibles because that's what one of the companies had bought out to watch. And I just fell in love with it there.
You like crashed their meeting?
Oh, well, it was like a family, like, hey, come watch this movie. And yes, I 100% crashed it and watched it.
Excellent.
So, I mean, I watched it, fell in love with it. I found myself going there and watching it on breaks and whenever else I could sneak into that theater. And of course, I love superheroes, so it played to me there. And this came out at a time where superhero movies were kind of starting to boom a little bit, not quite as much as they are now, but they were coming out in higher numbers. And this was at the time probably one of the best superhero movies ever made, except for maybe like Spider-Man 2. There's familiar comic book themes in the story, but it's done in such an original way that it was really unique for its time. I love the family themes at the center of it. The family dynamic made for some great comedic moments as well as some great dramatic moments. And I'm very excited to see where they take the sequel that they're making. I hope that it deals with the family at an older age and they don't leave the kids at the same age, because I think family dynamics changes over time, and I'd love to see. For sure. I'd love to see them experiment with that with like adult kids, which would be really cool to do. So I'm excited for the sequel, and it blows my mind that you just never have latched onto this one, because I think that if you sat down and gave it a shot, you'd love it. The voice cast is great, but Jason Lee definitely stands out as the villain. I think it's Syndrome. Yeah, he's fantastic. So it's a great movie.
I honestly, the only thing I remember about this movie is that Samuel L's in it.
Yeah.
Because when I watched it, I was like obsessed with Samuel L. movies because I loved Snakes on a Plane. That tells you exactly when I saw this movie for the first time. It was when my wife and I first started dating. She owned it. She's like, "You've never seen The Incredibles?"
So you guys own it still then?
Yes. And
Dude,
I've never
watch it. What is wrong with you?
I actually wanted to watch it before we did this. I just got busy earlier this week. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, I've seen this movie one time and I almost fell asleep.
So you had a more engaging experience watching Cars 3.
Well, I almost fell asleep during Cars 3. I'm just making myself sound like I'm an old man that just naps during movies.
You seem like a bitter old man, and you need to give Incredibles a shot.
I don't hate it. I just am indifferent to it because I never attached myself to it. And I'm really glad that you did all the heavy lifting in the Incredibles discussion, because that was pretty much it. I've seen it once. And I remember Samuel L. does a voice in it. That's pretty much it.
I think we might have the same kind of process with these next couple movies. So
so the next movie is Cars, which was released in 2006. It was directed by Lasseter and Joe Ranft.
Yeah,
it's R-A-N-F-T.
Yeah, man, you nailed it.
Do you think he pronounces his name with the like question in his voice when he's Raft?
He's still not sure.
So, yes, this is, I don't want to say it's by far the worst one. It's definitely the worst one that we're going to discuss on this particular episode.
Yeah.
This isn't a Pixar movie for me. It just feels like just a DreamWorks movie or something like that. Just a generic, we're trying to make money because of the toys. It's just the lowest common denominator type of movie.
So I will say this is the best of the three Cars movies, in my opinion. And
the third one, I didn't like it that much, but that's how much I don't like this franchise.
I think they tried to put the creativity and the heart in there, and it shows in a couple spots, but it's not a movie I enjoy watching. I haven't watched it in years, and I won't watch it for many more years. I mean, if I didn't take time to watch it before Cars 3 came out, I honestly probably won't watch it until I have kids at some point. So, yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. It's not a movie that I attach myself to. It's not fun. It's just kind of, let's sell little boys cars, or I guess little girls can like cars too. But
yeah, you son of a bitch.
I know, sorry, but it's kind of like, what sells a lot? Oh, Hot Wheels, and how can we put a Disney trademark on a Hot Wheel?
Yeah, and it just seems like the story, like even with Toy Story, yeah, it's an animated movie and it's about toys, so they're going to sell a shit ton of toys. And even if you get past that, with Toy Story, the story was still really good. It was still really layered. The characters were really interesting and diverse. And the Cars, it's just not that way. It just seems like I said, it doesn't seem like a Pixar movie because it felt like they were just phoning this one in.
There's only so many stories you can tell about talking cars, right? Like, and it's this weird world where there's no humans and it's like post-apocalyptic.
Who made the fucking cars? How did they get new cars? Where do the kid cars come from? Like, I don't know.
Cars aging. This movie talks, why would cars have penises? Why would the cars die? Like, they're fucking cars.
Yeah, who's fixing the cars?
I don't know, man. Maybe that's why there's just too many questions. And Larry the Cable Guy's in it, which is awful. So
yeah,
and this was kind of like the height of his popularity. So I can see why it was successful, but not for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the next one, I think I've only seen maybe once or twice as well. That's Ratatouille, which was released in 2007. It was directed by Brad Bird and Jan.
Man, this is great. I love this.
Pink of the? No.
Pink of the?
Yeah, sure.
What?
I don't know. It's Pinkava.
Yeah, Pink of. I don't know.
Yeah. So, anyways, this is a movie kind of like The Incredibles that I've only seen maybe once or twice, and I remember very little about it. It's not something that I really kind of attach myself to because I'm not a big rat fan and I'm also not a good cook. So neither one of these things really had anything going for me. I do like the fact that it's based in Paris, and I do think that they have obviously really cool animation, and I think the world looks really cool. It's just I never really got behind it past that. I am a big Patton Oswalt fan. I do think that it's really cool that he does the voice in this film, and he does a really good job with it. But yeah, I never really got into this movie either.
Yeah, I only saw this movie once, and that's depressing because I think I've seen Cars more than once. So I have more knowledge on Cars than I do on Ratatouille, which is by all accounts a really good movie. I just never put much time into it. I think it's kind of My Incredibles. So I watched it and I was kind of in and out of it and didn't put a lot of effort into paying attention, which is a shame. So I need to revisit this one. I also like the voice cast, Brad Garrett and Patton Oswalt, and I think that this is more in the vein of some of their more creative movies. Oh yeah, I mean it definitely has that high concept. So I do appreciate that. I just need to give it another chance, which I hate that we didn't have a lot to say about this movie because I want to say it won Best Animated Film and it was very well received. I'm sure it has a very high Rotten Tomatoes score, but yeah, it's just slipped through the cracks. I think it came out maybe like my freshman year of college. What year? 2007. Yeah, so my freshman year of college, didn't have a car at college, couldn't go see movies, so it was just one of those that I didn't get to see until later and never really attached to. Yeah, it's a shame. It's another movie that I own, and I don't. Maybe I'll watch it now that we've talked about it a little bit. Maybe I'll rewatch. I'll definitely rewatch Incredibles. I need to watch that movie again. Yeah, I'm more ashamed of you for Incredibles than Ratatouille because obviously I'm right there with you on Ratatouille. It's something I need to give another go. But I did warn you guys that the next 4 films I was not a huge fan of. The next one definitely made up for the last 4. This is one of my favorite Pixar movies of all time. It's WALL-E. Released in 2008, directed by Andrew Stanton, who has a regular name, and there's only one of them, so I'm good there. I think it's funny that we can literally track our friendship to a year. So we have been friends for almost 10 years because our first man date was a weird 3-way date with you, me, and your buddy Jake, who I actually really like a lot. We differ on Jurassic Park. Our thoughts on Jurassic Park. You guys have had vivid arguments about Jurassic Park that may have been fueled by alcohol. But yeah, definitely. I love Jurassic Park, and he screamed at me.
Anyways, that's inside joke, obviously.
That's about as crazy as my bachelor party got. It was Pat and Jake screaming at each other about Jurassic Park. But.
Anyways, because we're real cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just absolutely love this movie. I love how they take, and this is another really high concept Pixar film where we have destroyed this earth and they've sent these robots to clean it up, and there's only one left. And the fact that they can take a robot that can't talk and convey so much emotion just by his body language and just the way he interacts with other people and other robots is just fantastic. It's just a beautiful love story, which that reminds me, it is weird that we watched this together. But it's just a phenomenal movie. The way the lessons about humanity in it, the fact that it's told through these two robots is just really, really solid storytelling.
Yeah, my opinion is that this is Pixar's best movie. Not my favorite, but it's best made movie from start to finish, and it's probably my second favorite of Pixar's filmography. So I think it's deeper and more adult than any animated film has the right to be. Just the themes in it are crazy. Just about us destroying the earth and being overweight pieces of shit, and it touches on so much. And it's so fun. It's such a fun adventure movie. And then you also have the love aspect and the way that they make you care about a character that is not even human. Yeah. It's a robot that can't talk, and you just fall in love with Wall-E. And it's heartbreaking at the end when he kind of gets reprogrammed back to his factory settings and doesn't remember Eva. And the way that they're able to do that with that type of character is amazing. So props to Wall-E. I think it's Pixar's best movie for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite. It's kind of weird that Finding Nemo was directed by the same guy, but I mean, it is what it is. I really, really like this movie quite a lot. I might watch this movie tonight instead of rewatching The Incredibles. But it's really just top notch. Like, we haven't really talked a ton about the animation because, I mean, it's amazing all across the board. Even for the movies that we don't really like that much. Well, we'll get into it with Good Dinosaur because that animation's not that great. But across the board, the animation's amazing. But even though it's such a grim world, I still think that they put such a meticulous detail into the earth when he's trying to clean it up. I think that's amazing. And of course, the kind of the mothership or whatever they call it, with all the people on board is pretty cool detail as well. So
yeah, it's just layered, and they created this whole universe, and it still displays hope. And, and that, we're not done for. So it's great.
For sure. All right. So that's it for part one of our Pixar retrospective. Obviously, we're going to move our way through the next 9 films, ending with Cars 3, which will probably be a pretty short discussion since we just reviewed it. As always, we're going to end this episode with a nerd favorite. Tyler and I take turns asking each other a really nerdy question. The topic changes from episode to episode. It's always what your favorite whatever the topic is that week. And it's my week since we take turns. And I'm going to ask you, since we just talked a lot about Pixar for the last 45 minutes or whatever, and we just talked about it last week with our Cars 3 review, I thought that I would ask you what your favorite Pixar character is. And I mean, we just talked about how much we love Wall-E, and that's my answer. The fact that they could convey so much emotion through a character that can't speak. The fact that he's in love with movies and he can act out this whole movie is pretty cool. I mean, they do such a great job, like we said, with Toy Story and all these other movies, just adding that extra layer to the characters and to the plot. The fact that he loves this movie and that plays a part later in the movie is just phenomenal. So I just really, really like that character so much. And his design is pretty cool looking, especially for an animated robot. I thought they did a really good job there. So Wall-E is my favorite Pixar character, even though I love, of course, Woody and Buzz and all them, but that's more about the movie itself too. Even though Wall-E is a phenomenal movie, the character itself is just really cool.
Yeah, so this would probably be my answer. But of course, I got to pick something else for conversation's sake, and I'm going to try to do this without making a dick joke at any point. But
I know where you're going with this.
So it's Woody. And Woody is a character that I love from the first moment I saw that first Toy Story movie. I remember I had like Woody toys, and I don't even know why I'm laughing. So there was this toy.
We could be grown-ups right now.
Jesus Christ. So there was like this toy that I got from Burger King that was a Woody doll that spoke whenever you pressed it, and I loved that thing to death. And I remember I wrote my name on the bottom of the shoe like Andy does. So I've loved that character for a long time. I loved his progression through the three movies, and we'll talk more about what that looks like in the third movie. But I love not only that he's voiced by Tom Hanks, who's an American treasure, but I love how conflicted Woody is in these movies. So he's not just your hero. He's
not a good person.
No, he does some questionable things in that first movie, and in the third movie, he wrestles a lot with what he wants to do and who he cares about. And I think that that's kind of what draws me to him, is he's not perfect, but he's still a character that in the end does what's right, but it takes him a little bit to learn and get there. So I do like Woody quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's kind of, I think most people's answer would be Woody. I mean, because Toy Story is so famous, but like I said, I love Wally as well.
Yeah, I think that if I were to have gone first, I would have probably said Wally, because he's just so pure. But Woody it is. I'll take Woody.
You always do. God damn it. We were so close. Anyways, so that is the end of episode 146 of the Nerd You're Looking For podcast. As always, we'd appreciate if you subscribe, rate, review us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, basically any good podcatcher you use, we're on it. You can also check out our website, thenerdspodcast.com, which you can find basically our entire backlog of episodes. You can also find blog posts and our Rotten Tomatoes film scorecard as well. Comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Nerds You're Looking For. You can also check out our Twitch channel, which Tyler does a weekly stream Monday at 9 p.m. Central, which is currently on hiatus because he's training for his new job. But I will also be streaming Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. I'm currently streaming South Park Stick of Truth. I've been streaming it for the last couple of weeks. Really, really fun game. Thoroughly enjoying it. Don't know why I never played it before, because it's just really, really fun. So I'll be doing that for the next couple of weeks. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. They're both at The Nerds Podcast. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Google+. Email us at thenerdsyou'relooking4@gmail.com, where we're hoping to get some more listener questions so we can do another one of those episodes here in the future. And finally, you can vote for us for Podcast of the Month at podcastland.com. For Patrick Kuhn,
Tyler Hunt.
we're The Nerd You're Looking For. Take it easy, guys.
Later, guys.